Hello and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in business and in life and simplify them. And friends, here's the reality. Today, we are recording this conversation on September 16th, 2020, which basically means that wherever you are in the world, you have been in pandemic central since about middle of March, right? So you've had about 6 months of this, not only dealing with lockdown, maybe you're homeschooling, juggling all the things, and you have certainly had to pivot your business at least once in the last 6 months. But what about this next quarter? What about 2021 ahead? That's what I want to talk about today. And that's what I want to simplify, like how to pivot and actually scale your business through a pandemic, not once, not twice, but ongoing as we go through that. So I had to find the perfect expert to talk about this specific topic. And this lovely lady came across my desk. Her name is Jennifer Dopazo, and she is a graphic designer specializing in brand identity, interaction design, and UX and UI design. She's the founder of the multimedia design studio Candelita and a 3-time American Graphic Design Award winner. Now, she helps her clients attract their dream clients by translating their great big vision into an awesome digital experience. And she's worked with a couple of clients that you might recognize and know around here in the Simplifiers, including author Danielle Laporte, the New York Times, Pepsi, and Nickelodeon. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Jennifer Dopazo. Hey, Jen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so glad you're here. And we have lots to talk about. And I failed to mention the reason you're the person I want to talk to about this particular topic is that you launched your agency during the massive 2008 recession in America. Boy, howdy. Like, that must have took some huge courage on your part. Talk us through that. What was that experience like starting a small business then?
Yeah, that's a big topic.
Yes.
At that time, the whole crisis happened. I was in my master's of design and technology at Parsons, and we were going to graduate in May, which is, jobs. And as a non-American, just trying to find a work visa, it was just like really, really hard because, of course, like companies were like, not really sponsoring people. They were trying to give Americans jobs and opportunities.
Yeah.
And at that time, once you finish any education degree in the US, they give you a year to figure out what you're going to do, figure out your visa, if you're going to stay, if you're going to leave, all that.
Right.
So what I found myself was just, I started doing some freelance. And interesting enough, my first clients were people who were laid off because of the crisis. And they were also trying to figure out what is the next step? What should I do? Should I just this side project that I've been working on, just launch it as a business? So it was really interesting to find myself not only to trying to figure out what to do with my own business, but also helping and learning from all these people who they might have had a corporate, position for years and security suddenly find themselves figuring out what to do next. And so those were my first clients.
Yeah. And so those first clients were they were laid off by their corporate jobs and they were going off and trying to start their own small business as well. And so they needed you and your team to create a website?
Yes. So basically it was from either from branding, a logo, a website, whatever.
Yeah.
It could be them trying to figure out what to launch, or it could be, hey, my spouse has been doing this side gig. I'm just ready to support my spouse and just go for it and become like a family business. So it was a lot of mix of, family units sort of like coming together, trying to figure out what to do during this recession and this crisis. And also changing this mental model of I'm coming from a corporate, security and job and all the things that you get from it into this unknown of like, is this going to stick? Is this going to be successful? So it was just from websites to branding into just I need to launch something. Designer.
And that's huge. I mean, I think anybody that's listening to this that is a small business owner for 1 week or 10 years, they know what incredible courage it takes to be like, well, I've got an idea. I've got a lot of grit and passion. I'm going to stick to itness and do my best. And it requires such discipline, such faith, and also just some perseverance into, getting those first few clients, getting traction and getting it up and off the ground, right?
Definitely. And I think we were all in the same boat. We were all trying to figure out what to do next. We were all
Yeah.
trying to figure out what was the best way to just have some sort of security. And I think at the time, and I think it's happening again right now, we were also empathetic into what everyone is going through
Yeah.
and understanding and just, this is not easy. It's a lot of unknowns, how we can just come together and help each other into make the best out of like a very bad situation that we have no control over it.
Yeah. So would you say that that's one of the bigger lessons learned from when you launched in 2008? What else did you pick up along the way that you feel is really, really critically important and could help people in the right now?
So one of the things that then after that happened, because I was just basically saying yes to everybody to come my way, was just to understand who I really wanted to work with, what were the type of business owners that I wanted to support. Because one of the things that we tend to do is that we want to say yes to everybody. We want to please, we believe that that's the success of the business. But sometimes if you're not the right match for that person, it's just going to drain you, right? It's not the same of receiving, a nice email and be like, yeah, I'm excited about this, but it's just like it becomes a little bit harder just to focus and do it. So one of the first lessons to me, and I always say that all my clients have been my teachers in all this, because there's something to learn from each of them.
Yeah.
So I think that was when I could just sit down and say, okay, who are the people that I really want to work with, and how can you create those boundaries for your business into who do you want to work with, which is really important, because I get it. We want to say yes to everybody, but just like creating that space where you can actually work better and do the best for them is only by just sort of like creating that space, that safe space, and who you like giving your team, or even if you're alone, like your daily hours, because we spend in our businesses so much time that even with our loved ones, that it's this one-to-one relationship that you build.
So let's go a little bit deeper in that. Are you talking about personality traits of that ideal client? Like, for example, they're very communicative, they hit deadlines when you ask them to do stuff, they pay their bills on time, those kinds of things? Or were there other kind of parameters or ideals that you were looking for in this ultimate ideal client?
So personal traits, yes, especially if you're starting to work with, like, there's a lot of anxiety when you're launching new things, and I get it. Like, we love to do things right away, ASAPs. And one of the things that nowadays, and a few of my clients know that would come to me and they impose themselves these deadlines. That my first question is, why? And, because in my process, I do like to spend time with them to prepare what we're doing. We don't push any pixels. We don't pick any colors. We don't do anything before getting the groundwork. And that's what I call discovery. So sometimes it's just a matter of like understanding, if there's a person who's just like, I want this right now, right away. And like ASAP is part of the language. Like I have this thing of like, we don't do ASAP around here, because we aim to just plan things in a way that things are going to work out. Of course, things happen, and like maybe there are going to be some delays or some sort of personal things might happen on the other side. But it is a mix of your vision, your values, your personality, and also that you get those when you have those first calls, like how is this relationship going to go, right? Because for me, it's very important to just know that I can build a relationship with my clients in a way that we have enough trust and transparency to just openly talk and be able to just, if there's something in my process that maybe for you specifically, you feel that it's not working that well, I'm just happy to go in and be like, okay, let's figure out what is the best way to work for you without like creating a new process, but just maybe it's a matter of the communication or how the tool is set up, like very basic things. So that's kind of like the way that I've handled it. And I reached a point that I was a little bit burnt out, because it was like so much space that you were giving to people. And I was realizing that I wasn't loving every single project that I was doing. And I know that's like such a privilege to say I love every single one of my projects and every single thing that I do. But I did really want to get it to a point that I'm, you don't get an email and be like, oh God, I need to do this right now. Let me just like prepare, like just be like, okay, I'm on it. You call me, you text me, I'm on it. I get it. We can talk. So I reached to that point where I was just like, I don't want to be this person who's just going to try to like ignore your email for a couple hours, because I'm not ready mentally to do that.
Right.
So my way of avoiding that was just really understanding who is the person that I want to work with, and also be very clear and transparent from the beginning the ways that I like to work. Like, I am an open book, but also these are my boundaries, right? So it's this relationship of saying, yes, I'm here for you, but also maybe not in the weekends, or maybe not after 6 p.m. Like, that's kind of my own time, and I've worked really hard to just achieve that. So I think
100%.
is the
Yes.
transparency.
Yeah,
um,
no, I hear what you're saying. And I specifically, I mean, what I hear is, when you put your core values, you as the individual, the business owner's core
mhm.
values at the forefront of, shaping what this business is, regardless if you're launching a new initiative or, you're really just looking to pivot and expand your services right now in a pre-existing business, your core values are the most important thing to start with, and it ripples out into all other decisions, which, as you're saying here, like choosing which clients you do go after, and then which clients you do create pitch proposals for, and which clients you do take on and you don't, yeah. And then that also creates the ripple effect of what your work to work, weekly work schedule is going to be
Yeah.
like, the work you delegate to your team, the whole nine. And it's almost reverse engineering rather than just going, I need money. I'll take everybody here. Bottom basement prices. Here goes. Panic, panic. Right? It's a completely different approach, and I think that is also the calm ripples out as well.
Yeah. And I think it's just like, and this is very personal. Find your way into getting those red flags. Like, you don't like, we don't like to talk about this, but it's like, find your way. Is it the engagement? Is it a couple of calls? How do you actually sort of like talk to this person, understand, yes, I can help this person, and also figure out your exit strategy, because sometimes not everything's going to go well, or maybe there's a point that you say, I helped you to this point, from here on I might not be the best fit for you, but I know that I wrapped this in a bow, you're ready. How does that look like, so they don't feel
Yeah,
like you just abandon them? Like, that's
that's
one
right.
thing that I just, so it's thinking about both ways, like, how do you manage those first engagements into understanding who this client is, or if the person for the product is, what happens if things go wrong, if they're not happy, how you manage that.
Yep.
But also, when you're ready to say, I'm ready to let you go, you can go and continue. Maybe I'm not the right person for you at the moment. How you handle those situations. Again, so you don't want them to feel that you kind of like quit on them, ignore them, drop the ball.
Exactly. Yeah.
So those are things that, it's very personal. It comes with time. It depends on your business. It depends on your products, your offerings, whatever you do, and the type of engagements and relationships you build with your clients.
Yeah, and that's polish, in my opinion. When you have a process to say no to a client, you have the ability, and you have a well thought out process for it. Like, you know what? Hey, Jennifer, we're not a match. What you really need is this, this, and this. I have two colleagues that are competitors of ours that I know you would love them, or they would really serve you well. Here's their name, here's their number. I just want to make sure you're in the right hands. That exactly helps them feel taken care of, rather than you stop sending emails back, or you don't send them a proposal, or you send them something horrible. You're just like, go away. Like, no one wants that, right?
No.
That makes sense. So let's talk about pivoting. Quite a few people have already had to pivot at least once this year due to COVID-19. What would you recommend to those that are listening that already have a business established, but really want to finish 2020 strong? What would you say to them?
I think one of the main things, which I know is really hard because of what we're living, is focus, right? And one of the things that I try to ask friends, colleagues, and even clients is, if you had to offer just one thing for the rest of the year, one service, one product, that you could say, this is going to bring me, could it be the equivalent of the 60% of my revenue, or even higher? Just take that, think about it, and do I need to tweak something in my marketing, in my sales? Do I need to start looking for a new customer base? Probably, because let's imagine you're changing the price tag or something. Do I need to create a new customer segment so I can attract those and still be able to serve them in that way. And I know saying focus in these times is just like crazy. Like people are like, how am I gonna focus? Like we don't even know what's gonna happen next month. We don't even know what's gonna happen next year. But I think that sometimes we tend to have too many balls in the air because we want to do all these things, right? It's like having like a toolbox with all these tools that you haven't cleaned up in a while, and you keep adding things that you're buying. So I think it's a time for you to just like open it up, take everything out, really think of each of them and is this something that I know that it could, if it's a product or a service, that it really gonna makes my clients happy. Is this something that I can deliver if I focus on this one thing and do it? So I always do this analogy of like, let's just open the toolbox, take everything out, let's clean it up, and just keep the few things that we know that we actually use. That is not going to collect dust, is not taking space either mentally or in your marketing messaging or for your team. And you can actually focus in that one thing and try to work out. There's also other examples that I've seen of people pivoting in a different way. Maybe you're a service-based business and you're like, well, my business is, I have to see people to do things. Like, let's say, I don't know, you're like a makeup artist or things like that. Right. How do I pivot? Like, that's crazy. But like, do you go online? Well, maybe you don't. Do you like gather with other business owners and create some sort of thing? I saw this beautiful example about an eyebrow artist that she realized, she said, it's going to be really hard. She started doing classes on Instagram and people loved it. But then she's like, how about self-care? And she gathered local business owners and she said, how about we do our own self-care monthly box? And just that could be a way that we can all support each other, come together during these hard times, but also allow people to just feel good at home because we're all spending all this time at home. So there are different ways where we can talk about pivot. Either you create your own community, gather a group of people you admire, and it could be even your competitor. Just get together and say, how can we just go forward, offer something that it might be bigger, might benefit even more of our customers, or just say, what is the one thing that I can just focus on and just be really good at it, focus in it, and just make it my goal.
It's brilliant. And, now more than ever, especially for small business owners that are listening right now, if it's just you, and you juggling all the balls, like, wouldn't it be better if you and, say 2 or 3 or 5 other small business owners, just like yourself in aligned, industries can come together? I love that story of doing a subscription box or just thinking just outside of what your norms are. To create something new. And I guess the way I look at it as well, and what I hear in what you just said, is smart business owners are really thinking about their audience and what they desperately need right now, 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now. What are they going to need at the holiday season? And so being very smart and strategic of thinking, okay, it's September or October now. What can I start putting in development so that I can launch it in November, December, January coming forth? And, this is what's always been tricky for entrepreneurs before having a pandemic, is that sometimes you're just taking a guess. You're looking at the market trends and all that. And yes, things are a little bit harder to predict right now in a pandemic, but it's the same rules apply, right? You ask people what they want, need, and desire from you, like actually do the market research. You collaborate with others, pull the resources, and you test and iterate, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it just takes a minute just to ask. Maybe say, hey, I'm thinking of doing da-da-da-da-da for da-da-da-da-da.
Yep.
Send that to friends and be like, do you know someone who would like benefit from this? That could be something that could help, like test it instead of, I think we're going to start seeing more the rough kind of like testing and sort of like test the waters. What is like your most valuable product? Ask questions, than just going full blown into like investing in one thing and just, I believe this is going to happen. I think we're all more open to have these conversations. All business owners are very open into collaborating. You see restaurants and hotels, for instance, here upstate, hotels have decided to give their spaces to chefs or restaurants that haven't been able to have indoor dining and be like, we'll do pop-ups and we'll just have people eating outside. So I think it's a time where I love seeing how communities in different industries, they're trying to figure out and redesign business as it is with the limitations we have.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard to try to design things from limitations, but once you understand your limitations and see, okay, this is what I can do, but these are my restrictions, you're going to avoid frustration down the road. It's just going to be more honest and just, easier for you, because we tend to put too much in our plate always. So I think it's time to be more gentle, be more honest, and be able to ask the hard questions and ask for help. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
If you need it, if you're not sure, just ask for help, even your friends, because sometimes we need to remind everyone around us what we do and what are the struggles for them to be like, oh, I have a friend that has this great idea, or I could help you with this, or let's just chat and like get it out and like let's brainstorm together.
Yes. And I'll take that idea one step further. If you are connected with your friends and colleagues on LinkedIn, you can look at like what second connects are to your friends, to other people. So when you do that search and you go, man, it'd be really great to connect with marketing directors at blah, 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 blah brand, then you can actually do that search through LinkedIn and you can say, oh, Jen's connected to so-and-so there. I'm going to send her a private message and say, hey, Jen, I am testing this new thing. I would really love if you could introduce me to so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. It's the tools are sitting right here in front of you. And sometimes a lot of us, we just don't realize how much access we have and opportunity that we have in front of us. So
yeah.
I want to go back to what you said earlier and take it a little bit deeper. I love this analogy of like emptying out your toolbox and kind of looking at all the things and clearing out the dust and all of that. I can see the visual and it really helps me as a visual person. So that in my mind is like taking an audit of your business. What things specifically should we be auditing in this process of clearing out our toolbox?
I would start from the basics, which is, what are you spending your days doing? Do an exercise. It could be a couple of days a week. This exercise, I did it like 5 years ago. A friend of mine suggested it. I'm like, this is crazy. But just sort of like, almost like timestamp, what are you doing?
Yep.
Because you're going to notice there's things we love to do. There are things we're just like, oh, I wish someone could do this for me. You might not be in a position to outsource or like, get that tool, whatever it is. But as long as you get an idea of what you're spending your time in, like you can just write, it could be a spreadsheet and be like, I spent 3 hours on emails and then I didn't maybe have lunch today. Like you're just going to get this reality of like how you're spending your time.
Yeah.
What are you actually doing? And then I would just say, think of the things not only that you're really good at and you love doing, but are these things helping your business move forward? Because when we start seeing all the distractions and all the things that we think we should be doing, you could just say, I could just put this on the side for now. Or maybe I can just find a tool to do it. Maybe it's a project management tool. Maybe it's something that I can just go for it. Think about what your ideal day would look like and just see how close or far you're at. And this is not just to discourage you, being like, oh, my ideal day is like has all these amazing hours and I don't have them. It's just a reality check, because for me, it was amazing how much time I was spending so much time in things that I didn't like, like, I don't know, like sales thingy and like the things that I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do this, but I have to.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, well, if you think you have to, is there another way that you can do it that is more nurturing for you, that you can say, well, this is my way that I'm going to do it. I know people say you have to do it this way, but this is my way that I'm going to do it. And I can put the time in my calendar. I can just get it done. And it's just easier.
Yeah. So take an inventory of how you're spending your time specifically. And I use Google Calendar. I mean, it is my tool. If it doesn't live in Google Calendar, it doesn't exist in my reality. I mean, that's just the truth. And I'll time block in. So if I know I need to write this proposal, or I need to record this podcast, or I need to do this call with a client, it's all blocked in. And I think that that's really helpful for me, at least, because sometimes I don't know how much time it's going to take to complete a task. But if I give myself a block block, like 45 minutes. Most times I will fill the 45 minutes, right? But if you give yourself a half a day to write the same amount of content or whatever, you're going to take the half a day to do it. So I think sometimes it's nice. And then you can actually look back on your Google Calendar and go, actually, if I started my workday at 8 a.m. and I ended it at 7 p.m., but reality was I only did about 4 hours of work in that 9-hour slot, something's wrong. And then you can start to go backwards and make refinements from there. But what about with the business? So should we also be looking at our pricing, our offering, our positioning, all of that stuff as well?
Definitely. So I think it's a time as we just open our toolbox, just seeing, be honest keep yourself honest and say, these are my products or these are my services. This is how much it costs. This is how much I sold. This is how much it costs to produce it or actually hire a team or like manufacture it. And this is how much I brought home. And just put your, numbers are scary. Like finances are kind of like, so intimate. But if you can just put this and just see it and keep yourself honest and say, okay, maybe this one line item, I'm seeing that it takes so much effort to produce or to launch or to service. And I'm not bringing home that much. Can I put this one for now on the side and just bring my focus into those that I know I can deliver either faster? I know like my production costs are like tidy up and I can just serve them in the same way. So I think, we kind of I like doing this like once a year because that's how businesses kind of start that's how you see businesses sort of focusing in one thing and people are like, oh, how do you decide to just focus in that one thing now? Well, because, I'm trying to build something that is sustainable and scalable and eventually can live without me. And I know that if I can just create that process for it and understand all the different pieces on how to deliver it, I know that eventually if I can bring someone to just follow through, I could just step away from it and things will be okay. So for me, it's just because my vision is that I want to build something that if I need to step away because I want to or because I have to, my clients are going to feel that they're taken care of and things are going to be moving. So I think doing that, just also audit all the different offers you have, even whatever you have, we have all these if it's a freebie, just start going in and dig everything up and if you can get numbers, if you can get analytics on it and just see the numbers and allow these numbers to help you make a decision.
Yeah, it's so smart. And how many times do we just sort of keep chugging along in the hamster wheel and we don't do this work of actually stepping out and going, oh, actually, you know what? This thing that we spend way more time than we should on and we think it is profitable actually isn't. This reminds me of a conversation I had last week with Danielle Hayden, episode 137. She is, certified public accountant. She was talking exactly the same thing. So you're right on, Jed. She is, if it's not profitable right now, then, really re-examine why are you offering that in the first place? Can you productize that service so that you can, really get clear on how many hours this kind of a job is? So if you're selling it at a flat fee, to make sure you're not working for $2 an hour, all the things dead on, 100%. And you said something earlier about, how to focus in on the thing that's really making you the most money. That kind of rings back to the Pareto's 80-20 rule. Talk to us there about how you can use that kind of rule, the 80-20 rule, towards scaling your business this quarter.
Well, if you think about it, if you're focusing to one thing, and I know sometimes we as business owners are like, oh my God, I gotta talk about the same thing every single day. Actually, you can. Because you know your product, you are the expert, and people will love to hear more about it from you.
Yeah.
And I feel the same. I'm like, I need to stop talking about the same thing over and over again. But, that's because we think people know, and sometimes they don't, right? And you will find that there's going to be some sort of nugget that they will find and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's a great tip. Yeah. So I think if you start focusing on that, what is my narrative now? How am I going to present myself? If you're the face of your business or if you're not, if your business is a brand, how do I present my brand in a way that it's really going and feeding into that one thing that I want to focus on? And it's, even though that it feels repetitive, it's just, you just like stripping all this like noise,
Yeah.
and you can just be more focused, and you'll see how suddenly, like, yeah, you know what are the things, what are the questions you can ask, you know what are the places you can go. Maybe there's someone else with that audience that you kind of like, those guys will be great for this new pivot or whatever I'm offering.
Yeah.
Could I just find how to talk to that audience in a way that I'm so focused that they know exactly what I do? And the easiest way even for selling is that instead of just saying, I'm a graphic designer, you can just say, my business is X and we do Y and we serve. So it's very specific,
Yeah.
and they can identify themselves and they can raise their hands and be like, that's for me. I think that you're talking to me.
Yeah. And side note, this is the thing that I have learned over the last 17 years of being a small business owner. And I didn't know this in the first, like, at least 5 or 10 years, is that, your website's a living, breathing thing. It can change and it's not the end of the world. So, like,
Right.
you could remove some services from your menu bar and test it for a month and do exactly what Jen is saying, like, do the one thing, whatever your thing is. And see if you're getting more leads, you're getting, more people on your website and staying longer. And bottom line, are they contacting you? They reaching out and booking a discovery call or taking that first step to learn more? And then, if you want to test something else, you could put it back. Like, it's not like the end of the world forever. Right. And I think that was a fear, especially for me in the early days of like, oh my God, if I tell people I only do this, then, that will be a disaster. Do you agree with that?
I agree. And actually, sometimes it only takes a Google Doc with a bullet points, and this is what we're going to do. Are you in, are you out? And I've seen people doing this successfully, and just even asking first the question, be like, would you be interested in this? And when they say yes, here's a link. And it could be a Google Doc, could be an email.
Yeah.
Read about it. Are you still interested? So it doesn't have to be, and again, I shouldn't be saying this because that's what I do, websites, but it doesn't have to be like a full website, full blown. Like, just figure out your own way that you feel comfortable, where you can actually press play, as a friend of mine says, is like, just press play all the time. Stop thinking and stop making it perfect. What is your way of pressing play? Is it a video on YouTube that you just put out? Is it a Facebook Live? Is it an Instagram Live? Is it a Google Doc that you send around the link? Just figure out your way that you feel that you're not stuck because you don't have these details figured out, but you can actually feel free to talk about this one thing, and you'll find your own language and your own way into like communicating with people. And we might say, well, I have a brand, I need to present a certain way. Well, you're going to present the professionalism in the way you're presenting this new thing that you're offering to them. And believe me, it's amazing. But when you have something that is so well thought about and it connects with people, they don't care if this came in a Post-it note, if it was a Google Doc, or if it was just a chat, a coffee chat. So I just find your way. I always say that, find your way into how you can. And I say this, and I always say to myself every day, what is my way that I can just stop trying to launch the perfect thing and just put it out and test it and get people fall in love with it?
Yes, and that reminds me of the Lean Startup Methodology book. I think the author's name is Tim Reese. Like, just what is your MVP, your minimum viable product? Throw that thing out there, however nasty and dirty and imperfect as it is, just to start getting that feedback from your market and your clients and your prospects and anybody that's following you on social media. Ask, and you might be surprised. And they go, oh, no, I don't need that, but I need this. And you go, oh, and then how much would you pay for this? And then, they go, oh, no, I wouldn't pay for that. Then that's very clear. Don't fall down that rabbit hole to buy, to purchase and make the beautiful website and do all the things for something that they clearly say, no, I wouldn't spend any money for, because that's not a business. That's a hobby.
Right.
And all the things. I think it's solid advice. So back to what you were saying earlier in the conversation about really feeling like small businesses, this is the time to cultivate more collaborations with other entrepreneurs. How can people do that? What would you suggest? What's working for you?
Reaching out, even if it's just, through Instagram, whatever it is. If there's a business that even if they need support, and like showing up and be like, how can I support you? And I think we do have something very positive happening right now, is that we all want to support local small businesses.
Yeah.
Because we know how hard they're having it. And I think that's something that I hope it stays, not because we're in a pandemic, but because that's kind of like what we want to do. We want to support people who are like us and they're building their lives
Yeah.
and businesses in this way. But I think just it is as simple as a nice message of just like, I love what you're doing. Or, if it's a little coffee shop that has been opening through the entire pandemic, and just
Yeah.
show up at least once a week and be like, guys, you're doing great. Like, I feel like there's been a couple businesses in our neighborhood that they did not close one day during this entire time. And they did it the ways it's amazing to see different businesses, how they were trying to reimagine how to serve people, from the coffee shop to the pizza place to the deli, like just figuring out how during these hard times where people couldn't go indoors, and just imagine how they could do, like there were restaurants doing picnic baskets, because they realized that people are just going to the parks to eat because we need some sort of space space outdoors. And they're like, okay, if you're going to come to my restaurant and dine, how about I get, they will sell these beautiful picnic baskets with a bottle of wine and like these different things. So it's amazing to see how businesses were able to sort of like transform and understand how they could serve people, but also people are showing up. And I know that we are all wanting to support each other in whichever way we have. And I think just by reaching out, by just saying thank you to like the guy who never closed his shop,
Yeah.
or even just saying, is there anything that I could help with, even if it's sharing your thing with my friends or sending more people your way.
Yeah, exactly. Lead with, how can I help you first, rather than saying, hey, I think you should promote my business and you should buy all my stuff and da 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 da. It's a completely different offer. And it sounds so silly to say it like that. But how many times have we as business owners desperately reached out to someone and said, you should buy our stuff or whatever? And that's how it comes off to them. Like, oh, thanks for another spam email. But I think what you're saying is genuine. And how can we help you? How could we collaborate together on something? Because we have like-minded audience members that we serve. I love that. I really think that's smart. And I think, again, pulling your resources incredibly important right now. So, last question before we move on. How are you handling and like taking steps to plan ahead for 2021? What is your team doing right now? Are you guys doing an audit? Are you doing that, cleaning out the toolbox, or is there other things as well?
Yeah, definitely one of the main things that I discovered was changing the way, for instance, like we're very focused in membership websites. So changing into, we're not going to do the full build and these really big complex projects, into I need to find a way I can help the newies who might use a platform that is already set up, like just kind of like restructuring my process into, okay, I'll just help you in this and I can help you implement it. It might not be the full blown build, but just allowing people who are trying to figure out how to move their businesses online, which there's so many people right now trying to figure out, how can I digitize whatever I do so I can reach out to more people, because I have this limitation. So that was the first thing that I it's kind of new for me.
Yeah.
And I'm having so much fun because the conversations are different, because we don't have the big tech kind of like thing to deal with. It's more about, let's think of the platform we want to use. And it's almost like reverse engineering. Yes, it's not going to be like the full-blown customized one that we can build for you.
Yep.
But understanding the limitations, how we can build your content and how you can build community with the tools that you have. So that's one thing that I've been changing more.
Cool.
And it's just, we're more into almost like support mode for all our current clients. And it's, I'm kind of like understanding how all that effort and free time that I'm getting from these big custom builds, we can actually put it into supporting all of our clients and these new clients that are coming with, let's say simpler projects, which are not. It's just the technology part is a little bit simpler, but my approach is the same as if it was built. So
Got it.
It's been interesting to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just a side note to everybody that's listening, if you've been considering maybe launching a membership website or moving to like a subscription-based model for a part of your business, let's say you're a coach or you provide, online education in a monthly kind of way. Jen and her team have created this freebie for you guys, and we'll put it in the show notes at the simplifierspodcast.com. That just is a simple free guide to help you improve the design of your membership website. So definitely go back to the show notes so you can find that there as well. So, Jen, I feel like you've given us so much to go off of, and I really hope that everybody that was listening had a pen and paper so they could write down and jot down things and genuinely take the time to do the clearing out of the toolbox. How much time have you allocated for this? Is this a 15-minute task, a half-day task? What would you recommend there?
I mean, if you could put even an hour to do it and just find this, I think the most important thing is find the mental space to do it.
Yeah.
No distractions. Be very honest with yourself. It's again, it could be something that maybe you do incrementally. It could be like half an hour a week. It's just your time for do it because of whatever reality you live in.
Yeah.
Maybe you're like, nope, I'll do a full day because I'm gonna go like all in into it. But as long as you make it some sort of habit where you once in a while check, because I think it's so easy for us just to be busy and go and like not stop.
Yeah.
So even if you do it once right now and then you say, let me just check in January how things went and how do I feel, how the business feel, how healthy it is to sustain this, it's just a good reminder to do it. So do it once. It could be an hour, it could be half a day, but I would recommend just try to put that in your year. And it could be, I don't know, you depending on your business how often you want to do it, but it's almost like a health check on your business. And we need to have that time to stop and just sort of like analyze. And it's like big companies and corporations, they do this like offsites just to do that. We can do the same thing even if you're a one person team or you're a huge team. I think it's important to put this time to just look back and see what we have done, what is the potential for some ideas, and what are the things that maybe we're ready to let go.
I 100% agree with that. And if you guys are curious about Jen and her team and what they do at Candelita, their website is candelita.is. And again, all the links are in the show notes at the simplifierspodcast.com as well. I highly recommend if you are considering, doing a brand refresh or wanting to create a new website or, really have somebody to walk alongside you with your marketing strategy. These guys are definitely people to talk to. Let's just be real, I love your work that you have done on Danielle Laporte's Desire Map. I mean, how many of us that are listening have probably seen the work that you and your team have done, and that also is a brilliant roadmap for gaining clarity on how you want to feel in the work that you do and put out there in the world. So yes, go check Jen and her website, candelita.is. So I have a few questions to wrap up that I like to ask everybody. And again, thank you so much for your time. One is, what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
So I am rereading this book that is called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. And it's by the Basecamp guys, Jason Fried and David Hansen. Because I love how you start reading the book and they talk about creating a calm company. And it's all about, they're against hustle, they're against late nights.
Yes.
If you follow them on Twitter, you see that they say, we're going to launch this thing, but people are going to go home on Friday at 4. It's this like anti-hustle almost manifesto that is really inspiring, because I think we feel that, I don't know, there's this whole thing like hustle is like you feel successful if you didn't sleep, if you're like working or putting all these hours. For some of, but I realize that that's not what I want. For me, success is just like being able to shut down my computer, take a day off, be able to spend a day outdoors. So that's a great book. It's an easy read if you've read anything from these guys before. They're great. And it's just the example of a big company just building this calm culture. So I really like it.
It's great. It's a great recommendation. We'll put the link in the show notes for that book as well. So tell us, who's one person in your network, somebody that you know personally, you just feel is up to brilliant things that we could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
So one person that I think of that comes to my mind is my friend Lisa Howell. She's based in Australia, and she's a physio. So basically she works with dancers and helps them recover. And one of the things she's been able to do is not only she started moving things online as like either with memberships and things, but when COVID hit, she had all this world tour organized all around the world. COVID hit, countries started closing down. She came home and she was just like, how do I give them the experience anyway, and just figuring out. And it's been a lot of testing, and she's been doing different things, but I think she's been so open into say, we don't know what we're like, we're trying to figure out how to make it the best out of it, and I want to serve you anyway. That's just seeing her from like Australia still doing her workshops around the world and gathering these people, taking care of them, has been, it's just such an inspiration for me. Because if you think about it, like her business, her profession has nothing to do with digital. Like it has to do with your patient and helping them with movement. So just having her see how she's been navigating it and figuring out how to like show the exercise in a way, it's been amazing to see her do that and be present for her community in a time that it's just so hard.
Yeah, well, appreciate that recommendation. We'll definitely link her up in the show notes for people to check her out as well. So I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what's one thing you're grateful for just today?
To have a business and have an income and just have the luxury to, spend all these months at home and being able to, it's almost like life as it was, right? And every day is just being very grateful that, I can still run a business. I can still have the income that I have had, and I can just figure out how to help more people. And that's something that I know it's a privilege right now.
Yes. So people can find you on Instagram at jenniferdopazo.com, or sorry, Jennifer Dopazo is your social media handle. Again, we'll link that to the show notes for people. So my last question for you today is this, Jen, and again, thank you so much for your time. I hope people have got sparks and new ideas and what they're going to do next. Someone somewhere is listening right now, and she is definitely looking at her fourth quarter numbers and going, how in the world am I going to hit them? What is going to happen in the next couple of months? What's going to happen with the U.S. presidential election? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, panic, panic, panic. What's one thing you could whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her in this moment?
Take time. Really like check on you. I think we're all so, even us who still work and we're so online all the time, that I just check on your mental health. Just check how you're doing, how you really feel. I know we have a lot to come up and no one knows what's going to happen. But I think it's just tapping your friends. Even if, we're all online, we can see our friends, but just check on them, ask for help. If you're feeling bad, if you need anything, even to talk about it, I think, again, we're all so open and we all know that everyone's having a hard time. That just talk to people, just be very honest. I think it's a time where we have to let pride out of the door and just be able to say, I'm having a hard time, even if it's things that are having everything together. And I'm like, oh, my image might seem that I have everything, like all the dots in the row. Just check on yourself. I think it's the one thing. Just check how you're feeling. Is it time for you to take a walk outside? If the walk outside is the only thing we can do right now, just go do it. And I think it's just check on us. Like, it's hard. It's not an easy time we're going through.
We're not alone. Jen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's been amazing. It was so much fun.